Well then today, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for attending our Flexi webinar. Today's presenter will be, of course, the wonderful Mark Rugen. Mark has lots of experience with Flexi, lots of experience with making signs. He owned a couple sign shops. He's been in the industry for over 25 years, and these days he travels the country teaching people how to use Flexi. And Mark is really good at showing people who have used Flexi for a long time new tips and tricks and ways to make themselves more efficient in using Flexi. But another thing he excels at is teaching people who have never used Flexi before, helping them with that initial learning curve and showing them the easiest way to get started in using Flexi. So that's what we're going to be covering today. And he'll be presenting for the next 20-25 minutes or so. And then we're going to have a Q&A session afterwards. So if you think of any questions that you have about Flexi right now, or if anything comes up during his presentation, just go ahead and type those into the chat window at the bottom there. And after his presentation, we'll go ahead and take those questions. You can ask him anything about Flexi that you want, and he'll be able to answer those to help you on your way to learning to master Flexi. And with that, we'll turn it over to Mark.
And I might just, thank you, Stuart, and I might just add we also are recording this, so you'll be able to watch it again at the in a few hours or perhaps by tomorrow. So folks, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I know it's a little time out of your day, but it's a good start. We're going to talk about Flexi for new users, but I know when I teach my classes, we kind of start out that way in the early morning, and I've had folks that have been using Flexi for literally a couple of decades just walk up in the first break and say, wow, I didn't know you could do that. So even if you've used Flexi for a while, this is a great seminar for you, a great webinar. So let's get started in this. One of the things that I really would stress for new users is finding out how you can get help. Obviously, if you're new to the program and you've been using maybe something else and it looks a little different to you, or you're trying to accomplish something, you want to be able to get help. And so the Flexi folks have actually put together a knowledge base online for you to access, which I think is really cool. So that's the one in the blue there. It's kind of a long one to remember. But write down that second one there, that tinyurl.com/FlexiKB, so lowercase Flexi and then capital KB. And when you enter that into your browser, what's going to happen is it's going to take you to a website where the knowledge base actually is. So let me show you what that looks like. So you end up in this location right here, and basically you can type in the search area there anything that you're trying to look up by subject matter and so forth. As you scroll down here, there's some neat things. There's some PDF files that you can download specific to various topics, which I really like. And you scroll down a little further, there are some videos. These are some of the YouTube videos that I and others have done to put together that will help you with various subjects as well. So it's a really nicely done knowledge base, and I really encourage you to use that. Where you click on basic steps here, again, it'll take you right to kind of a tutorial on what you do to get started. So as you scroll through this knowledge base, you'll start to see some of the really great ways to do things and to use this. This is kind of an enhanced training module or help file, if you will, and I think it's going to be really popular with especially folks. And if you're more experienced out there, take a look at this too and tell us what we need to add or what we need to change, and we want your input on this, okay? So really nicely done. Compliments to SAI for getting that help there. Going back to Flexi, more help can be found on the right-hand side where it says Resources. There's a support button there, which will take you right to the support page that SAI maintains. That'll get you in contact with technical support as well as other means of learning. There's a YouTube icon. These are the cloud features that they say, right? So if you have that turned off, at the very top up here, there's a little cloud where you can turn that on and off. You definitely want to have that on. It does require an internet connection, but it's great because it gives you a lot of capabilities here to get a little help. And then you also see a Facebook icon. It'll take you right to the Facebook page. Lots of followers right now, new, intermediate, advanced, even the FAI folks monitor that. So good place to discuss what's going on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and close that off for now just to give us a little more design space. In addition to that, if you notice when I am new to using Flexi here, when I take the mouse and just let it sit over any kind of icon up here, it doesn't matter what it is, it actually pops out a little helper that tells you what that particular icon will do, and it even shows you the shortcut key. And that's true even of menus in here. If you let your mouse sit on different parts of the menu, a lot of times you're going to see a little pop-up helper that's going to appear that's going to give you additional information about what you're about to click on. So again, new users, I want you to kind of take your time here and just sort of investigate the interface. When you first start it, just, take your mouse around and just sort of let it sit on a few of the icons. It'll start giving you some basis to sort of see what you're about to do. A lot of times in menus, and I'll show you this on the left-hand side with the text menu, you'll see the text menu there, and what will happen is, and let me blow this up a little bit for you. So what will happen over here is you'll actually see a text menu tool here, and there's a little kind of a little tiny icon or arrow tool right here, and that's actually showing you the that there's an extra menu under there. So if I click and hold the mouse button down, you can actually see a pop-up menu that pops up there. So that's another great tool for using Flexi as well. Let's also move on to another subject here that I think is very important, and that is using the right mouse button. Those of you that have been to class know I really stress this because actually in all Windows programs there's usually some function with the right mouse button, but with Flexi it's really, really helpful. And basically here's what it means. If I click the right mouse button, and I'm going to do it on the blank page here, just click the right mouse button, it actually displays a menu. If I move my mouse, say, to the ruler up here at the top and click on the right mouse button, it shows me the different units that I can design in, feet, millimeters, centimeters, even point size if I want. If I right-click on an icon, any icon, it shows me a list of other icons that I can turn on or the current ones that I can actually remove. So, for instance, I know we're going to be doing alignment quite a bit in Flexi. That's just basic sign making. So why not go down to the alignment tools here and click on that, and it'll actually show up in your list up here. You can move these and place them wherever you want. Move them to the left, to the right. You can put them on the right-hand side of Flexi, on the bottom. Wherever you want to place these, just move them wherever you need. So I would suggest also that you right-click on the icon and see which one of these that you're going to use quite a bit, and then pick that one and place it up on the screen there. Because, it's just sort of a visual way to have right in front of you the most used types of functions that you're going to have in Flexi. So going back to this discussion of the right mouse button, what we have here on the right mouse button is what we call a context-sensitive menu. What that means is whatever your mouse pointer is on. So again, going back to the icons, if I'm on icons and I right-click, it's an icon menu. If I go down to the swatch table on the bottom down here and click the right mouse button, this is the menu that has to do with swatch tables. So as we start to design in Flexi, as we're going to move on to in just a moment, you're going to see me use that right mouse button quite a bit because, in my opinion, it just saves time. Now you can find all the menus that we're talking about in the menus across the top up here, or perhaps there's an icon. But I think getting in the habit of just clicking the right mouse button in various locations tends to save time over the long run, and it's an easy thing to make things happen quickly. So we're going to try to really get some capabilities here, and we're going to show some really good capabilities here in design. You'll see a couple of menus on the screen here that show up typically. The fill stroke editor, which handles the kind of color and gradients and pattern fills and so forth right in your area here. So we'll talk about that in just a second. And then you'll also see Design Central, which is obviously central to all the designing that we're going to do. This menu will change as you design in Flexi. So we'll use that in just a moment, okay? In fact, let me turn off my fill stroke editor. I'm just going to click that off, and we'll talk about Design Central for just a couple of seconds here. I'm going to use the artboard or the substrate, the square box that you see on the screen here to demonstrate this. Design Central is really helpful in many, many ways. It's not just a way to input information. It's also a way to do things like you would with a calculator or to change things really quickly. So for instance, if I'm looking for a substrate here for banner, and I know that banner is going to be, say, 6 feet long, I know that's 72 inches, but I can also go into my Design Central, highlight the width here, as you see, and then just type in, 6 and an F key after it, and it will convert that number into inches for me, so I don't have to do the conversion. It does other things too. It can do fractions. So if I need something in exact size, I can type in 36 and then type in plus 3/16, and it will do that calculation for me. It calculates 3 divided by 16 and adds it back into 36, and there's the fraction. So again, you can literally type in mathematics, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction right in Flexi. So if something needs to be if you want to know what half of this value is, you would just click divide by 2 in here, and it will actually figure out what that value is for you. So be sure you use Design Central's capabilities, which include the ability to, do common mathematics, okay? All right, so let's start a new file here real quick. The next topic I want to talk about briefly here, and by the way, all the topics I'm covering right now, we do in all of our live seminars, and we go into great detail there. So I really want to encourage you to attend the seminar. We've got a very special one coming up in California if you're in that area. It's in conjunction with the NBM Sign Show, and we're actually going to host that Flexi training class on the Queen Mary. So if you want to go on the Queen Mary and take a tour and stuff, well, you can do that after the class or before the class, and I think you'd really enjoy yourself. Just check with SAI for the dates and for the location of that, and to sign up for that. But in any case, let's go back to our design here. I'm going to show you something we call smart objects, and this is giving you an indication of how you design in Flexi. So I'm going to draw a couple of things on here. I'm going to click over here and take that rectangle and just draw a rectangle right there. And then I'm also going to go here and I'm going to choose a star shape, okay? Now, we call these smart objects, and the reason is that when I do not have a smart object selected, as I do now, Flexi just is telling me the size of the substrate. But every time I click on an object, when I click on something like a rectangle here, it immediately switches Flexi, and the third tab always tells you what that object is. So in this case, it is defined as a rectangle. When you click on the third tab, that gives you all the properties of that rectangle. And you also get options. So in this case, for instance, I can go to the corner and round the corners off if I want to. I can turn on a switch to make an inner border right here. And it's important that you understand what a smart object is, because when I don't have anything selected and I were to look at that piece above the star there, that looks like a border to me. And it is, it'll print and cut like a border. But when I actually select it, Flexi will identify the actual name of that object. So it remembers that that's not really a border, that's a rectangle with certain settings. So if I want to make it back into a rectangle, I can take away the round on there, and I can take away the edges, and I can say there's no inner border there. And then I have what's, back to a rectangle shape again. So the idea is that remembers what it is. Now here's why that's important. I'm going to go ahead and delete that rectangle, and I'm going to go to my star here and just paint it red. You can just click on a color to paint it. And I'm going to add an effect to this object. So I'm going to go to my effects menu and add a simple shadow on this. Now when I add a shadow, you see a preview here, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to cast shadow and make this black. Now you see the preview. You can actually move this around till you get the kind of shadow that you're looking for. I'm just moving it by clicking on the preview here and just moving it. And for you new users, this is the very first thing that you're going to do that's going to kind of be frustrating if you're brand new to this. You'll see it on the screen like that, and you'll forget to apply it. That's what the green check mark does over here. So what you might do is just click on the screen and you kind of get upset because it didn't apply. But you'll get used to it. It's basically, select the option that you want to do, and then you always need to click that check mark to apply it, okay? And then when you make a change, you'll see a preview again, and then apply it. All right, so just remember to apply the change like that. Now, the reason I drew this is if you look at this, I'm moving it around, and you notice that when I move this, by the way, it's in wireframe like that. Here's another suggestion for you. A lot of people like to work in wireframe like that. So you see the original position of the design, and then this is a preview of what's going to happen when I let go of my mouse button. So that gives me the location of that, and then when I move it, you see the preview. When I let go, it actually applies it. But what a lot of folks like to do is they like to go to the View menu, and what they'll do in the View menu is they'll turn on what's called Show Preview. When you turn on Show Preview, what that does is that tells Flexi that you're not interested in seeing that wireframe, but instead, when I move something, it actually moves the actual object itself. You can see now I'm not seeing a wireframe. It's moving the filled-in colored images. So you decide how you want to work in your office, whether you want Show Preview on or off. It's completely up to you. So let's talk about this thing here again. Now, I'm going to click right on that star shape, but if you notice in Design Central here, the third tab is not showing me the star that I clicked on. It's showing me the shadow because Flexi is trying to show you the last thing you did. And that's okay for, when you're satisfied with, let's say, the original design. But as you know, our customers might not be. So as a result of that, a customer might ask you to change the number of points on the star. And a lot of folks in other programs, what you have to do is maybe undo everything and recreate the shadow and so forth. But not so in Flexi. Again, right-click anywhere off the actual object, anywhere. Just right-click. It will bring up a menu that allows you to choose a special selection tool called Select Within. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice that Design Central now shows me nothing. And if I just let my mouse sit over the top of the shadow, it'll tell me that's a shadow. I don't want to change that yet. If I sit over the top of the actual object, it pops up Starburst. And that allows me then to just click on the object, which happens to be the star in this case. And then Design Central will show me all the options for the star. It's as if the shadow's not there right now. So I click on that third tab, and as I change the number of points on the star, you'll actually see that the shadow is updating automatically. No matter what I do to my object, no matter how I change it, if I change the look of it, if I change the size of it, the shadow is automatically following along. And that's really what makes designing in Flexi so powerful. It's really working with objects and being able to select within. That's a very, very extremely powerful tool in Flexi. Now, the last topic I want to talk about, and that applies to everything in Flexi, so you can use that a lot. The last topic I actually want to talk about in Flexi is in the bitmap menu. There are a lot of vectorizing capabilities in Flexi. What that means is I take a bitmap and I want to change it into vector artwork for, say, vinyl cutting, or just to clean it up and make it bigger. So there's a lot of choices in here, and I want to go through a basic example for you because I'm going to open up a graphic that's very difficult to work with. This is a typical graphic that maybe a customer might send us. And for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm also going to just turn off the border behind us, okay? All right. So here's my graphic, and as you can see, this is a very low-end graphic here. This graphic is about 2 inches or 2.5 inches in size. The third tab tells me that it's a very low resolution. It's only 72 pixels per inch. So in many programs, this would be very difficult to vectorize. But Flexi is one of the most powerful tools out there in the market for tracing or vectorizing poor quality images like this. When your resolution is fairly low, if you're looking at, say, 150 pixels per inch or less, there's a great capability in Flexi to vectorize. I'm going to actually go to my bitmap menu, and then I'm going to go to vectorize, and I'm going to choose the middle one down here called Bezier, B-E-Z-I-E-R. Now, Bezier has no options for smoothing, or they're all built in. So it's one of those kinds of vectorizing tools that works on everything, and it either does a great job or not so great a job. It's just automatic. In low resolutions like this, it does a great job. So let me show you what the result is. When you choose that, it actually traces that fish right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move that over. So on the right side over here, you're actually looking at the bitmap, and on the left side, you're actually looking at the traced image. And you can see it's extremely smooth. In fact, if I zoom up on here for you, let's just zoom up on that. All right, you can see here, see how smooth looking that is? Very, very smooth looking. And that's a very, very good illustration of how the Bezier tool actually works. It's a very, very powerful tool that I think you'll really find really good to use when you're vectorizing, right? So I'll do that one more time, okay? I'm just going to open up another file. I'll open up a little different one, perhaps. Here's one that's, again, as we zoom up on this, I mean, we don't have to, but it's literally a very jagged-edged image. Again, very small and then very low resolution. This one is 96. So this is, again, a very good indication that bitmap, Vectorize, and Bezier is a good tool to use. And again, you'll see it does a very good job of actually tracing that image. Look at how smooth that is. Very, very good job. So when you're vectorizing, try Bezier. It's a great tool to use. It, as I said, it's not for every single kind of image, but if you want more lessons on vectorizing, you can certainly do a webinar on just that topic. But and certainly send that suggestion to SAI in an email, and we'll do a topic on that. But that's kind of the basic tools. I know that's kind of a quick lesson, but there are a lot of other tools in Flexi that make it a very strong product for vectorizing and for doing all kinds of things. So we want to really take advantage of that. Again, if you didn't get it earlier, or you just signed in and got in here late, write down this website here. It's tinyurl.com/lowercase Flexi and an uppercase KB, and that's going to take you to the knowledge base. Remember, all of the training that you can get in Flexi, you can attend a live seminar that we do. We have 1- and 2-day seminars. And you also can access a Flexi training DVD that has over 10 hours of training on it by going to the link you see there as well. So with that, we'll close our topic, and we can start taking some questions, Stuart. And again, thank you everybody for attending if you have to go, but we're looking forward to visiting with you.
Okay. So let me just go back to the beginning of the questions here, make sure we get to cover them all.
All
so
right.
Paul's asking about proofing tool. Customers said, so he says, when using the proofing tool, customers have said that the image comes in really small. How can I fix that?
Yeah.
You're talking about when you send it.
Yeah, he's talking about the artwork approval tool. So in Flexi, when you design something, in the file menu, you can actually choose what's called the artwork approval tool. So what that does is that uploads the file that you've designed to an online system, and then your customer is able to access and look at it but not download the actual image. And what the customers get is you need to kind of give them a little training, because what should happen is they should be able to click on the thumbnail that they'll actually see in that email, and that should blow it up to actual size. So I would say that that's a training thing. Have them click on the actual image, and that should blow it up to full size so that they can take a closer look at it.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like we've got a question here from Ryan. He wants to know if you can save your placement for the toolbars. Sometimes Flexi crashes, and when he opens it back up, he has to organize them again. And Arthur says that sometimes he has the same problem.
Yeah, that's something that that's not going to change right now. These toolbars are not actually locked down. So like the one I have on the right now is the alignment tools, for instance. And a lot of times if you change the size of the Flexi window, or if it crashes or something like that, what it will do is it sort of reorganizes your tools. Yeah, there's no way to lock them in place at this point. They're floating tools basically. So unfortunately can't change that one.
Okay. Let's see. We have one from Shari. She says, when I try to email a proof to a customer in JPEG, it locks up my email. I always have to send it in PDF, but it may be my internet service.
It could be, Sherry. What I think we need to do there is take a look at this when you're going to send an email. What she's saying is you can go to the File menu, and instead of using the Artwork Approval tool, maybe they want to communicate directly with the customer and send them an actual copy of the Flexi file in these different formats: JPEG, PDF, and native. So when you click on JPEG, Sherry, there might be a couple of things here that can help. You're going to get a pop-up menu that's about compression. So 0 means send them a high-quality JPEG, and then it's usually defaults to like 25%, which is like a little bit of compression, and you could even go a little higher than that if you wanted to. It simply would give them a little lesser quality. But the other thing that could happen is when you click on that, it also was going to ask you what size do you want to send them, and this might be something you might want to consider. So change the size and width here to maybe like 6 inches or so. That way when they open it in their email, when they double click on the actual attachment, it'll be a smaller version of the actual files, and that's going to reduce the projected size. So you notice on mine it went from like 128 megs or something like that to, or maybe 28 megs to 6 megs. And then where it says resolution over here, you're probably pretty safe with like 150 or 72, somewhere in that area. I would say 150 probably. And you can type in a number here too. So if you typed in 100, 125, again, what will happen is now it's down to just a 1 meg file. And so that could probably help quite a bit in terms of when you attach it. So my guess is going to be that maybe the file size is quite large, and so it could be your email service or your internet service that might be causing a problem with it. But just change the overall resolution there and file size, and I think you might be in pretty good shape after that. Give that a shot.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So next we have a question from Sean, and then Ryan was kind enough to respond as well, so I'll just read through that. Sean asked, what is the quickest way to find a specific Pantone color? And then Ryan said that if you open the fill stroke editor and click under Advanced, under your fill, you can go to the library and click the drop-down menu for vendor and find Pantone.
Yeah, so if you, he says if you open up the fill stroke and click Advanced, and clicking Advanced, what that does is it starts what's called the color specs right here. And then there's 3 tabs on the top. So there's Color, Library, and Find. So in the Library tab, basically it shows you on the left-hand side the actual swatch table that you have open right now. And then if you go to where it says Use Colors, it actually will list all of the different kinds of swatch tables that Flexi is included with Flexi. And one of them, of course, is going to be the Pantone library. And then for type, or right under type here, you can actually choose. So if you're looking at solid coded, it's going to list all of these. And again, these are going to be, I'm just going to pull this over a little bit. These are listed pretty much in numerical order, as you would see in a swatch book. That's probably one of the faster ways, just to scroll through like that, because you can scroll through really quickly. There is no actual find, so I can't actually type in a Pantone number to find it, as you could maybe in some other programs. So unfortunately, you can't quickly search for Pantone number like that, but you can just scroll really fast, and that's probably the fastest way, and thank you, Ryan, for suggesting that. So if I'm looking for, say, 485, I could go right to the 400s and probably find that 485 pretty quickly, that sort of thing. So that's about the way you do it. And then when you find that, by the way, instead of having the whole Pantone color chart open on your swatch table down here, you can click the Add button. Just click the Add here. and then OK, and then that color will actually be added to your standard splotch if you want to make it that way. And so you just have one color open. So that way you can open the basic colors in Pantone that you might be using and just add them to your swatch table, and you'd have them handy right on your swatch table.
Okay. And while we're talking about Pantone colors, Paul wanted to ask if you can touch on Pantone color matching.
Yeah, it's actually a very longer topic, so I don't think this is an appropriate place to do that. I'm pretty sure we have a spot color mapping webinar that we did a few lessons back. So what I would suggest to Paul Ben is to go to the YouTube site that SAI has and look for that spot color mapping webinar. That will give you the full webinar. That's like a 30-minute webinar that we did, and we talked about Pantone matching there, I believe. So that's what I would suggest as an answer to that in this session.
Okay. Yes, and that is on our YouTube page, so you'll be able to find the full webinar there. Then we had a question about when you were vectorizing that fish. Jennifer just wanted to know what type of original file was that?
Yeah, that was, I'll open it again. That was just a JPEG file. This file right here, that actual image is just a JPEG file. That's all it was. So it basically represents what a customer would probably email you.
Okay. And kind of to go along with that, David asked, when you have a small bitmap file, is it better to make it bigger before vectorizing?
Yeah, the actual size of it is not going to matter as much as the resolution of it. So this was like 72 pixels per inch. So if I could increase the size of this to, say 15 inches or something like that, it doesn't necessarily help. Now, there are a couple of things that you can do, and I'm going to open up a different file here. I'll open up this one that kind of give you an idea here. This is color, but I just want to demonstrate this. You can see how it's a little jagged on the edges here. What you could do that might assist you a little bit is actually in the bitmap, and it's called resampling. So if you have this particular bitmap that we're looking at here is again 72 pixels. But if you go to the bitmap menu and resample, whatever number you see in this menu, you can probably triple that. So for instance, if I type in about 450, which is almost triple there, and then I click OK, what you'll see is it actually adds more resolution. This is now a 200 pixel per inch image, and sometimes that will actually assist you in getting better results. So but whether it's black and white, grayscale, or color, you can actually just resample it, and that might assist you. But as far as the size, not necessarily the size is not necessarily the bright tipping point in getting better results.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, Arthur says, why does the PNG file I import just show up as a box with an X in it?
I guess the answer to that is going to be not all PNGs are created equal. Some show up absolutely perfectly, and what a PNG for most folks, just to make sure everybody understands, is probably what Paul's trying to do here or Arthur's trying to do is import this file into Flexi because it has a transparent background. So that means, for instance, if I open a file here, and I'm going to go to a file here real quick. Give me 1 second. Let's go to different location here real quick. Actually, I think it's on my desktop, so let me do that first. Got so many files, it's like almost impossible to find all these things now. I don't think that's it. I can't find the one I want here real quick, but basically it has a transparent background, and that's probably why he's trying to open that. So the only thing I can say is they're not all created equal, and if you copy and paste, that's a very common thing to happen. I would say if that does happen to you with the particular file that you're using, you may want to try opening it in another program and then saving it again as PNG, and many times that will clear that up. So it's typically just a file issue.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So we had a question from Marie. She said that Flexi 12 will not let you make an outline with a point around the letters. You can get rounded or squared off, but not a point. And Flexi 10 used to let us do it. What is wrong?
Not let you with a point around the letter. So I'm not sure of that question exactly, but let's type in some letters here. So if I make an outline around this, let me make that in red so we can see this a little better. So if I zoom up a bit, and then I go to my effects, and I'm using 12 and do an outline, you can see on the top left-hand, usually if I want square, I would choose my square here like this, and then it would actually make a square edge on here. I'm not sure if that's what she's asking, but that's the normal settings for outlines there, either rounded, square, or mitered, if you will, depending on your need. So I hope that answers your question there, Marie. If not, just clear us up on maybe a little clarity on what you're asking.
Okay, if we have any more, we can get back to that.
Sure.
Let's go here. So Andrew said that I switched from Corel to Flexi, and the one thing that I don't like is the selection tool. Is there any way I can change the selection to only the items that I completely pull a box around?
Yes, you sure can. Andrew, you have two ways to do that. So what Andrew's talking about is, when you do this sort of thing where it's actually touching something, it actually selects that particular object. So you can see the word Bob got selected. And what I think he wants is to be able to pull all the way around like this on a particular object. But the difficulty is if I had, say, a star in the middle of the word here, and all I want is the star and not the Bob, and I did a sort of thing like this, it actually would choose both the star and the word. So you can temporarily change that, Andrew, by just holding the control key down. So the control key turns off select by touch and temporarily turns on select by box or by window. So if I did this and that star is inside and it's still touching the word Bob, it will only select the star. So if you hold down the control key, that temporarily does what you're asking. You can also go to the edit menu and choose preferences. And when you choose preferences, all the way at the end down here, there's a tools tab. And right kind of near the middle, there's a selection tool capability, and you can actually turn it off permanently by just choosing by fully enclosing. So if you want it permanent, use the preferences menu in the edit menu, use the preferences and turn it off completely. Or if you leave by touching, just use your control key and you can temporarily change it so that it selects just what's within the window.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see. We've got another question here. From Keith. He asked, can I change the color of a contour cut line for laser cutting?
You can, Keith. What you want to do is when you change the color of a contour cut line, you just want to make sure that it's named contour cut or cut contour. That's the only trick that you have to do here. So if I were to put a contour cut line around here, of some kind, and you can change the color here. If I choose red, for instance, I've chosen the actual effects menu, and that's where the contour cut lines, and then I've chosen red to be the color. And if I apply that red line then is defined as a contour cut line. So you just want to make sure that you go right to your contour cut effects menu and then choose the color that you've got here. And then in your, just make sure that red line is accepted by your laser cutter as a contour cut line. Let's put it simpler like that.
Okay. Oh, and it looks like we've heard from Marie. She was saying that about the rounded corners. She said, yes, that is it, but mine will not do it. The point is rounded. Do you know if there's any settings that may have gotten changed that would, for some reason, get rid of that option?
The only thing I can think of, Marie, is just in your Design Central here, you should be able to change this very first join type here from round to square. I don't think anything else would affect it other than maybe the miter number down here. So mine is set to 4. Maybe you could check that, make sure it's set to 4. That's the only thing I can think of that would have any effect on that.
Okay. So Marie, if you want to give that a try, and if it still isn't working, feel free to send us an email to our technical support team, and they'll be happy to look at it. They can even remote into your computer to see exactly what's going on and make sure that that gets working properly for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we had just a couple more. We had one from Emily, and she wanted to know how easy can it vector a colored JPEG?
Yeah, so for color vectorizing, again, we can do an entire webinar on that. In fact, we may have done one. I'm not sure. We can check on that, Stuart. But there's
we did.
auto trace for color, and there's color down here, and it does do a very good job. Again, it's based on the resolution of the image and so forth. I believe we have something online that would teach you that. Stuart will look into that and get back to you, but it's fairly straightforward,
Okay, I'm going to get the links for those webinars that we talked about. So here's the link for the spot color mapping.
And I believe what Stuart's doing is typing that into the chat box.
Mm-hmm. And then while I do that, we had just another request from Rosemary. She was just wondering, we covered this in spot color mapping, but if you can just touch on what the soft proof button is and how that works.
Yes. So soft proof at the very top of Flexi, you're going to see something that looks like a little computer monitor with an RGB circle in it. And I can turn that on and off, and you'll see on your screen there, you should see that bright green kind of get a little darker. That's soft proofing. So soft proofing is telling Flexi, on my monitor, I want to preview what my printer is going to do, which is very important, obviously, for outputting. What controls all of that, what controls the preview that you see in Flexi and the information that goes to your printer is found in the Edit menu under Color Settings. So when you go to Edit and Color Settings, that's what's controlling your soft proof, and it's also controlling what information is then being communicated with your printer. So when I click on Color Settings, some of the default settings are monitor profile, the printer you're using, and the media that you're using. There's an Input tab here. This is where we actually tell Flexi where this information is being drawn from. Did it come from a camera, scanner, the internet? Where did it come from? So usually in Flexi, one quick way to do a good soft proof, more reliable soft proof, let's put it that way, is where it says monitor in the first tab. I would recommend you just change that to your generic monitor profile. And then for the input profile, this basically changes depending on the images that you're doing. But in our case, let's say we're trying to match the color we saw on the monitor. If that's the case, we could either leave it at sRGB or actually change that to our monitor profile. So we're trying to match the color that came from our monitor, and we want to display it with a monitor profile. So I changed both the input and display to generic, and when I click OK and do my soft proofing, you'll see it's much closer. This is no soft proof, and then I click on soft proof, and it changes very slightly. Much lighter green, closer match. So the trick basically there is the soft proof is giving you a preview of what's going to happen on your printer, and the reliability of that comes from the Edit and Color Settings menu. So I would spend some time on this menu right here. And we, in one of our classes, and by the way, Muta this year has sponsored several color management classes throughout the U.S. They have one coming up. I think the next one might be in Boston or something like that. And we have one in California, and we've got a couple others going on. You might check that out again. Go to the, I think, SAI website and click on Events, and you'll see where those are located. And we go through a very thorough understanding of this subject. But that's the basic course. Display settings, I would choose generic monitor, and then input profile. You can use generic monitor, or many times you can leave on sRGB and get a fairly decent rendering of what you're about to get when you saw proof.
Wonderful. Let's see. So it looks like we're just going to wrap up here. But Dave had a question, seconded by Ryan. He said, is there a way to view which specific colors make up a currently applied gradient?
Yes. If you apply a gradient to a graphic, so I'll put this one up here, which is basically a lot of colors, obviously. In the fill stroke editor, you actually do see them across here. It's kind of on the bottom part of that fill stroke editor. And then let me stretch this out a bit. Minimize that. And then in your fill stroke editor, where the gradient is, all the way to the right of those icons that are listed right there, there's actually a button called Edit Gradient. And when you click on that, it will actually display the colors on the actual grid itself. So you can actually see now the colors. And this allows you to move them back and forth if you want to change the location of that green, just move it wherever you want to. And then if you want to, you can go right back to the fill stroke editor here and click on a color and pull it off in order to delete that color. So I'm going to delete the cyan by just pulling it off of my gradient up here. And if you wanted to add a color, you can go to any color on your slots table down here and literally drag that and drop it on your gradient fill right here. So I dropped the magenta on there, and it would actually add it to my fill, my gradient, and that's pretty much how you would manage it. So probably an easy way is just to click on your gradient, go to your fill stroke editor, and then choose that last button, the row of icons here, and it will display that right on the screen for you here.
Perfect. Well, I just want to thank everyone for attending the webinar today and for all the wonderful questions. Before we go, Mark, we just had a couple of requests. If you can show those links again, like the tiny URL page for everyone to take another look at before we close out.
There you go.
Perfect. So that is the links to the Flexi knowledge base there. So you can get a lot of your questions answered on that page.
Good job, too, by SAI. It's nicely done. Very nicely done.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll be sending out an email with a link to this recording, so we'll be putting it up on the SA International YouTube page, so you can go back if there's any sections that you want to watch Mark go over again. You can watch those, or give them to any new employees that you have. They can go over it, get up to speed on Flexi, and we'll be sending out an email letting you know about the next webinar next month. All right, thanks for coming.
And thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time and effort in getting here. Thank you very, very much.